how are you all? I hope you all are doing great and I hope you all are having a great time. So today I'm going to tell you all about David Livingstone. Have you ever heard of him, kids? So David Livingstone was born in Scotland in 1813. David Livingstone his father was into missionary. That means he preached about God to people and what our amazing God is all about. He preached to people who didn't know about Jesus, right kids? So David was so inspired by his father's work and he was so motivated, and from a very young age itself he wanted to do something for God. So he dedicated his life for God. And in his teenage, that means when he was in very young age, he learned a lot of things about God. He learned a lot of things from his father, from every place he learned about God and was ready to get into missionary. He had a plan to go to China and do missionary. But God always has plans for us, right kids? Yes. So God sent him to Africa. So in those days, Africa was a very poor country. They didn't even have a proper hospital, nor they were all tribal people mostly. And also it was all a forest area in Africa. So in that area, he was supposed to do missionary. He got married to a woman named Mary, and she was also into missionary and she dedicated her life to God. After the couple got into Africa, they started doing God's work, but their children couldn't bear the diseases or the climate over there because they didn't even have hospitals, nor they have proper food care in those days in Africa, so their children couldn't bear. It was a tough situation for him, but David said, Mary, you take our children and go back to our place. I will stay here and continue my missionary. You know how hard it is to leave just born babies and stay away from them? As a father, it could be very hard for him, right? But he did not give up. He always put God in priority, right kids? Yes. After that, Mary and his children went back to their place. And David alone, he was all alone. He didn't know anyone there. But he had a goal that he always wanted to preach for 1,000 villages. And the villages who never heard about Jesus. Where the word missionary or the word Jesus was never heard. He wanted to go to those places, the untouched places, and he wanted to tell about God. So he had a very great plan, right kids? And while he was doing missionary, he didn't return to his home. He didn't return to his home for almost 6 years. And in those 6 years, he went through a lot of changes. Right, kids? Imagine not meeting your family, and in those days, they didn't even have mobile, right, kids? They only spoke or they communicated only through letters. He didn't speak with his family for 6 years. And after 6 years, when he went back to his home, his wife couldn't recognize him. Because in Africa, there is a lot of sunlight and he became dark-skinned. And also while he was in missionary, because I said it's a forest area, right kids? So a lion attacked him once and a tree poked his eye. So he didn't have a proper eyesight, nor he had one eye properly. And he was dark, he was not like before. So his wife also didn't recognize him. Imagine your wife not recognizing you after 6 years. It could have been hard for him, right kids? But he told, I will return and complete my mission of completing 1,000 villages. Right, kids? He had this plan for himself. He had this plan for God. Right, kids? After that, he wanted Mary to come with him so both together can do God's work. But Mary couldn't leave her children alone. Right, kids? Because the children were still young. Mary told him, I will come to Africa after a few years when our kids become a little bit older. Then David went back to Africa and started preaching a lot of things. And one day Mary also came to Africa. But Mary was attacked with a disease. And then, even at that time, they could have left Africa for a hospital. But no, they stayed there, they continued their mission. And one day, Mary died. When Mary died, David cried, wept a lot, but didn't leave Africa. He asked God, God, I know you have a plan for me. I will stay here and I will continue my mission no matter what. I will preach about you. I will do your work until I die here. So he made a very strong decision for himself and he continued his missionary. And once when he returned home in Africa, he takes medicines for his health purpose. And one day there were no medicines. Somebody robbed all his medicines. He had no medicines, so he couldn't take care of his health. Somebody robbed his medicines, and he couldn't. They were really difficult to have medicines in those days in Africa. And he prayed to God, God, this is my situation, God. Please do something for me. And then, after he prayed, his answer was right in front of him. A man came to him and gave him medicines, and the man who came was Henry. And Henry told him, I am an atheist. Atheist means I don't believe in any religion. Don't try to convert me into Christianity. He warned him. And Henry was one of the greatest atheists, and he believed in atheism, means not believing in any God or not believing in any religion. So he was always motivating people to follow atheism. And right after 4 months, he bowed down, knelt down for God. He told Jesus Christ, the way you live, the way you are, the power of you had changed me, had changed my life, had changed me. So from then on, Henry and David together started preaching about God. But David became soon old enough, and one day he had to die. So kids, what did you understand from the story? David left everything. He left his wife, children, friends, family, everything, and came to Africa. He left his health also, health, wealth, everything for God's sake. He made a promise for God and he did everything. Did you make a promise for God? Are you doing any work for God? He dedicated his life for God. Are you going to take any promise for God? It could be a small promise. He promised God that he will preach about him in 1,000 villages which are untouched, and he did it. He did it until he died. Did you take any promise, kids? Remember, you should always do God's work. God's work is nothing huge or it's not something very difficult. It's just preaching others about God, because we are supposed to tell them who the real God is. Right, kids?